welcome. All right.
Ignore the voice behind the curtain. Hello, everybody, and welcome to No More Mondays, the podcast where we do believe you can have a thriving career or business and an amazing life on your terms. And if you have not met me yet, I am your host, Angie Callan. And guess what? This episode is brought to you today by me because my book is officially coming to a shelf near you on January 8th. It is called Scary Good, Discovering Life Beyond the Sunday Scaries. And it is built around the messages and many of the conversations that we have had right here every Monday for the last 4+ years. If you want to get early access, some sneak peeks, and learn about all the launch goodness, head on over to scarygoodread.com/waitlist and do not miss out. Now, on with the show. Today, my friend Bonnie Morlak and I are going to chat, and you may just have more luck when you leave this episode. He helps founders who are smart enough to know they need help, smart enough to know that it is time to turn the ship around, get honest with where they're at in business, and navigate what can often feel like the lonely world of startup life. He is a 2-time Global Startup Coach of the Year, a Publicist Gold winner, and the 2025 Momentum Award winner for Executive Coach here at The Modern Coach. This guy has lived the full arc. He's built companies, been burnt out, lost things he loved, and rebuilt something that was more aligned with his values and lifestyle. Sounds kind of appropriate for a conversation on No More Mondays, don't you think? Bonnie, welcome to the show.
Oh, welcome, and thank you very much for having me.
This is fun because for those of you, I'll bring you up to speed. Bonnie and I met actually from Coach Awards a couple years ago, which is an award I won. And we became quick friends. And so we have chatted about kind of all things except what we do in coaching for years. And now I figured, why not have him on and actually talk about what he does? Because this is something that a lot of us experience in all phases of startup entrepreneurship life, where the thing we built, whether it's our job, our business, or maybe our life, starts to feel overwhelming or untenable. And Bonnie, you've worked with lots of people who are in this predicament from a business perspective. And I'm wondering kind of what you have noticed, common themes around kind of the tipping point, or what does it look like when success starts to transition into something unstable? What have you observed?
That's a really super good question. Thanks for asking that, and thanks for not preparing me with that question. All right, so there's always a point in any business when you need to let go. At the very beginning, it's very natural that you do everything. You've got all hats on, you do the marketing, you write your blogs, everything is you, right? But when success sets in, you have to let go of things. And there's a phase in the business that feels like daily firefighting. And you can get addicted to that because you feel like you're doing something, like you're accomplishing something. You feel like the hero. You feel smart, like something doesn't work. They call me in and I'm going in and I rescue the situation. I feel so good. And letting go of that feeling is not very easy. So you have to step back further and further. And whatever was in my head, I have to put this into processes. And now I have to hire people who are way smarter than me. And for a lot of people, can be a little bit emotionally challenging. So letting go and reassessing what moves the needle. Additionally to that, we all still have that industrial age mindset, like we work in a Ford company and we, screw on wheels all day. It's not like that. We can create enormous amount of value in 20 minutes. Sometimes we have a great idea, we do something, we make a decision, and we have done an enormous piece of work for that day. We don't have to sit there for another 7.5 hours just to, fulfill the quota, So that's a good opportunity to refocus on all of these things that made that possible in the first place. And I talk about relationships here, because without good relationships and a good emotional foundation, all of that will just fall over in a heartbeat. So that was a very complex answer. Focus, find your focus and let go, and make sure you have good, beautiful, healthy relationships with the people you love, including yourself.
Oh, okay. So there's our 5-minute episode, everyone. I'll see you next week for the next episode. Your answer it perfectly encapsulated several, at a high level, several things I want to talk about. And so, well done. We knocked it out of the park just to kick it off, because one of the things you brought up was this idea of, in the early stages of business, unless you have a trust fund or miraculously were able to get funding because you are worth something before you had anything to give to the market, you're going to be doing it all. And I think it's really, I love this, especially here in America. Bonnie has the fortune of living across the pond, where it is currently the height of summer instead of the depths of winter. Especially here in America, we get really stuck into that kind of like taxi driver mentality of time equals money, money equals time, instead of the market that we live in now. And I think that, combined with what can be a very common entrepreneurial trap of wearing all the hats, the E-myth comes to mind, right? We feel like we have to always be the technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur, and that we can't ever sacrifice the other two, because like that's our productivity and our worth. And you bring up the very good point that if we find ourselves constantly wearing all those hats and working in the business and being the product constantly, that should be the wake up call and the tipping point.
Well, look at your calendar. That's who you are. And that's the printed statement of your values. And wherever you spend your time. So is that you? And then look at your bank account and go like, these two things, is this me? And if neither of these really match up, sit down and have a bit of navel gazing and take a day off, no mobile phone, sit somewhere near a tree and contemplate a little bit who you are and what you want to do with the rest of this beautiful, beautiful time on this planet.
Navel gazing, that is now committed to my my lexicon. Why do you think it is so hard for us? And we're focusing on entrepreneurs in the startup world here, but I think that this applies to pretty much everyone. Why do you think it is so hard for us to do what you just suggested, to navel gaze, to take a day off and go kind of like identify and prioritize?
Well, you live in the United States. I lived in Manhattan for 6 years, so I have a little bit of an idea. I'm from Germany originally. I lived in Australia for 30 years. I'm in Sydney right now. And I've noticed in the United States, there is a myth being propagated in a really, really deeply addictive way, is that if you just work hard enough, you can become a billionaire, which is bullshit, obviously. There's a hustle culture and there's a hyper capitalism around everything. And the schools and universities pump out those worker bees and consumers every year. And because there's this bubble, and especially true for the United States, where you don't usually look outside for inspiration, for example. You don't consider that Denmark might be a happier, or Norway might be a happier country than the freest country in the world. So everybody has this hustle culture, work hard mentality, which is great for the billionaires, but on a very personal level, you might miss out. And then there's also this idea of things have to be a certain way. Not so much the idea of who am I am unique and I want to create a unique life for myself, and I don't have to really justify it to anybody. That really doesn't much exist. And if you think like that, you're a hippie and you're useless. And I had this really interesting conversation once with a teacher from Ghana, Africa, and she said, and that was in New York City. And she said, the education system in the US is based on multiple choice, where the education system in Europe and Africa and most Asian countries is around essays, around free thinking. And I personally have a massive problem with answering multiple choice tests. I always go like, I can argue each one of those, but I can see the gray bits in between. But in the US, you have to pick one as right and one as wrong. And I see that in the dating scene, like on the first night, you do this, on the second night, you do that, on the third, and then you have a house and a double garage and a mortgage, and everything is sort of pre-packed, and you have to pick your lane, and that's it. And that doesn't leave much room, or even the idea doesn't even come up that it doesn't have to be that way. And people boast with working hard. And you wouldn't find that in Australia.
Busy is essentially the answer to like, how are you? Oh, I'm so busy. It's a badge of honor here.
It is like when I lived in Manhattan, how you doing? Oh, so busy. Great. And people felt like that was a good answer. Like I'm a valuable human being. You try that in Australia, they go like, oh man, you don't have your life together. Why are you busy? So the answer for that in Australia is, so how are you doing? What are you doing? Oh, not much. And that's a badge of success, not doing much. And so Germany, Australia, the US, and all the Asian countries I've traveled and sort of come to the point where I go, I have the advantage or the blessing. When you move countries, you suddenly start questioning your old values and then automatically the new values. And everybody claims they got it right. But if they can't all be right. So I have to find out for myself, who am I? Where are my outer boundaries of how much I follow all that craziness, right?
And that's where I think what's interesting is I hadn't planned to bring up the cultural factor, but I should have thought of it because you have seen so many kind of, different ways of living and have defined what you want for yourself. I know that about you. And what I think is interesting is one of the things that I have observed and kind of a platform that I stand on here is that here in the US, the culture is starting to shift. We're way behind in some regards from this idea that the institutionalized schooling that we get that tells us go do a thing and the structure is starting to shift. And so a lot of factors have impacted that and have given us the ability to start leaning into, let's say, alternative careers, lifestyle on your terms. I mean, this is a show where we believe you can have a thriving career, business, and an amazing life on your terms, but the whole corporate factor hasn't caught up to it. But I do think that's why more and more people are opting to just create their own ecosystems and step in to business, because if you are a little ahead of the game and realized that, hey, I don't got to do the corporate 9-to-5 thing. And you step out on your own, a lot can happen, but you also can then create a really nice job for yourself, which ask me how I know I did it. And so I'm curious on your thoughts on the difference between what I'm going to call like good growth that might be hard and might require hard work for a period of time versus this like hustle and grind culture that appears as productive, but isn't necessarily constructive. How do we know the difference?
That's a beautiful question. I think it starts with my definition of success, or your definition of success, and everybody's definition of success. What does success look like? A lot of people go into a situation without clearly defining what winning looks like. And that's a mistake, because if you don't know where you're going, you can't get there. So sit down and write on a piece of paper, what does abundance look like to me? What does an abundant day, week, year look like for me? So, and a very good way to do that, in my opinion, is to imagine you are a trust fund baby. Maybe that's the wrong thing. Imagine I give you a credit card that always has $1 more on it than you need. No questions asked.
I like that.
Whatever you want to buy, you just buy it. And let's just imagine like the first 3 months, weeks, years, you have like bought that house, the cars, done the holidays, paid off the mortgage of your brother or whatever it is, all the things you want to help everybody. So 5 years in the future, some Tuesday morning, you wake up. Who is next to you? What does your bed look like? You get up. What does the floor feel like? You look out of the window. What do you see? How do you spend your day if money is not the thing that drives you?
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a fantasy land, but be like, just go nuts on that fantasy. Just like if you're not getting giddy and giggle a little while you're doing that exercise, you're doing it wrong. So that shows you what your true life actually would be like. And it will probably not be doing nothing. It will probably helping your community or achieving something. There's always creative, intelligent people that can't just sit on the ass and watch TV. That's not what we do, right? So start there, right? And now I have a bit of a North Star here. And whatever I'm doing, I can just sort of imagine this. I'm standing on a field. I have two white lines left and right of me. And now I have to place what I'm doing, my activity, my job, somewhere on that field. There's my North Star. That's where I want to go. Ideally, that's where I would be. So if I do this, is that a detour? Or am I going backwards? Or am I stalling? Just like a physical space. And if, let's just say my ideal life, my professional North Star is I want to be an actor. I want to be in front of the camera. I want to have like movies coming out with me in it, and that's what I want to do. And what I'm doing right now is I'm a mechanic for my dad's panel beater shop. That's there. Or I'm cleaning toilets at Disney Studio. That is sort of in that direction, but not very far. Or I'm an extra, right? So I'm appearing on camera, but I don't have a line yet. That's pretty close, right? So, and all I have to do is, if this is not my perfect North Star, time limit it and call it meaningful endurance. Don't call it life. It's my meaningful endurance. So the toilet cleaning job is already in that front-facing field. I can do that for a week or two. No skin off my nose. The extra work, if I want, I could do that for a year or two, because it might get me closer to more opportunities. I'm also sort of already doing what I really, really want to do. So that's how I everything I do is, does it get me closer to my North Star or further away, or do I stall? And that is my litmus test for deciding what is grinding and what is growing.
There's I'll steal a little Simon Sinek for us, but really it's, why am I doing this? So for me, there were several years where I was what some people would call grinding. And yeah, I got to a point of getting a little burnout because I probably ground for too long, but I also knew why I was doing it. And I was kind of a willing participant in it because I wanted to kind of get up and over a hump, right? Because I knew what my North Star was. And I was willing to clean toilets at Disney to get there, right? So it's like, that's like a good example of wrong thing, right place, but you're kind of in the environment. And what I love and want to highlight about everything that you just said is, you've got to know the North Star, which means you got to look at your navel some, or you've got to be willing to dream a little bit, because this is something I find, and I don't know if the cultural of education, where in other societies and other cultures, it's like more open-ended and, like you said, essays versus the finite and in a box of multiple choice. But we as adults don't dream. Dreaming and play is for children, versus looking at that dreaminess as possibilities. Because if you don't ever dream about what that ultimate thing may be, how could you even possibly get 20% towards it? Because you've never actually been willing to establish it and even think that something close to it is possible. And that seems really lame to me.
Well, I must wholeheartedly agree with that. There are several layers and different factors, and one of them is our deeply ingrained emotional makeup, our operating system, our emotional operating system. and like as a coach, limiting beliefs and all that stuff. I grew up in a Protestant blue collar household, and rich people were assholes. Now, guess how I self sabotaged my way of not accepting money ever. Like it was a badge of honor to be busy and working and serving and stuff like that. So that we have to look into these things as well. So every founder that I coach, and I coach CEOs all around the world, and I pick them very carefully. And the tick boxes that sounds really arrogant, especially in a German accent, but they need to tick three boxes. Once, they need to be intelligent, right? I want to have intelligent conversations, and they all are. They need to be creative. They need to think outside the box and don't accept the status quo. But the third one is very important. They need to have the desire to grow as a human being. I want them to understand that they can grow as a human being, and that's really where the magic happens when in coaching a startup or a scale up versus mentoring or advising. Advising is telling them, here, these three things, change them, and then you never see them again. Mentoring, you say, change these three things, and then next week I check in and I help you along. A coach, I grow the human, and the human grows the business. I help them with the business, and usually I compare that to the ER. So the ambulance arrives and people are hurt and there's blood everywhere. And the very first thing when a founder comes to me, I have to stop the bleed. Like when you arrive at the ER, you don't want to hear about a better diet. You want somebody to actually stop the bleed, right? Then you operate. Then you sort of change things in the business, maybe the decision-making processes, the leadership style, the whatever it is, the systems. So now you created a little bit of breathing space. And now we sit down and say, hey, what about you? How do you feel about, and then often things come out that's a very common one. Not clearly stating what success looks like, not clearly stating what it is you want as a CEO from your team, expecting them to get it right, despite you not telling them, and then being resentful if it doesn't happen. And that's a pattern you find in couples, and and you carry that into your business. Like this. Why didn't she do the dishes, or why is the teaspoon in the sink and not in the dishwasher? But I never ever said that I would love to have the teaspoon in the dishwasher. I just expect this to be done, and then I get resentful and build it up, and one day, wow. Guess what? CEOs are just the same, right?
Yeah.
So, and there's an opportunity for the CEO to go like, okay, I'm a people pleaser, and I build up resentment, and I shy of confrontation, and these things actually stop business from growing. Like more than software and systems and funding and all the other stuff, it's literally the leaders of the business have emotional hangups.
We are usually the way.
At all.
No, but you opened up like 12 Pandora's boxes, because the human is typically the bottleneck in business more so than anything. We just can't get out of our own ways. Also, I will say it in an English accent so you don't feel as egotistical. Finding intelligent, creative, growth-minded humans is harder than you may think in today's age. However, it's very easy for people that have those qualities to stay in our way. Even if we think we are growing, right? And a lot of that comes into the play with this like doer mentality that is still tied to those belief systems you mentioned, right? So I grew up in a similarly Protestant, typical of the time, financial teacher's house, right? And it's just amazing. We talk a lot about the belief systems that we form as children and as young people, and we'll carry them through our entire adulthood without ever going, wait, does this kind of serve me? But this whole idea of like, if a human can't grow, a business won't grow, I think is a meaty subject that I would like to get some advice on. So let's say I am one of those humans. This could be theoretical, hypothetical, or real, whatever you would like it to be. But I'm one of those humans and I can see the potential in this business. I have dreamed, I can see where it's going, but I am roadblocking it because I'm either unwilling or unable to grow and get out of doer mode. What can I actually do about that?
It depends on how deep the rabbit hole goes. You might want to see a therapist for a starter, and just in parallel, and but on a very practical level, time box. Start with time boxing. Time boxing is a magical tool to create boundaries around your time, and it forces you to focus on certain things and prioritize them. And it gives you a visual. If you're a visual person like me, I can look at this, and even if you color code your time slots into different activity types, you see where you spent your time. So, and then you go like, when you start time boxing for the next week, you go, what are the 3 things this week that only I can do?
Yeah.
And then do them.
And you got to be really honest about that question, by the way. Literally, what are the only things only you can do, not the things I want to or I'm unwilling to give someone else to do? That's a big hook here.
Ego part. And if you don't really know how to answer that, I think that's where coaches come in, because sometimes we need a neutral, not emotionally invested outsider, not to tell us something new, but to tell us what we already knew, but to tell us. And
don't want to admit. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm a very direct person, as you might have noticed by now. And I tell people straight on the head, like, that's bullshit. So, and because there's no, especially in the scale up and startup world, there's zero room for politeness or for wasting time. And as opposed to a therapist, and I don't pretend I am even close to a therapist, but some of the things we discuss sort of sound like it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the time to sort of slow walk people to their own conclusions, right? So, and I don't even walk the horse to water. I put them in a truck and put them right in front of the lake, and tell them, drink. And it's necessary sometimes to just shortcut it to, you have to drop this behavior, you should do this, and to tell them outright that they're kidding themselves or they're full of shit. And if they have the right mindset, that's exactly what they want from me. That's exactly why they hire me, to call them out on their bullshit, because we are really, really good at distracting ourselves. You wake up, you switch on the radio while you brush your teeth, on the way to work, you check Instagram,
while you're
you do this
looking
and
at your phone. Yes, all of the things.
Yeah, until like you fall asleep in front of the TV, and not a minute in that day did you spend any time with your own thoughts, and so you're totally distracted. And we are really good at bullshitting ourselves to believe our own bullshit. Like, oh yeah, this is fine, this is good. Like, yeah, I'm actually really happy in my relationship, or it'll turn out just this one thing, and I just have to get over this hill, and then everything will be fine. And you know quite well that will be another dozen higher hills right after that. But we are good at sort of pretending everything is fine. Well, and if you peek behind the curtain, the kitchen is always on fire.
And I also think to like layer that onto this whole like startup founder entrepreneurial world, I think that it can oftentimes be worse, because we have very likely intentionally put ourselves in an echo chamber with one inhabitant, and either don't want or don't realize that we're just echoing ourselves off of walls, right? And so, and a lot of times we do that because we're like not employable and don't want feedback and want to do things our way. And so it can be very hard to be honest with yourself and admit that you need to bring somebody unbiased in, or that you need to be honest with yourself, or that you need to like dream a little or get out of your own way.
Well, this is not a sales pitch for coaches, like, when you want and
It'll
need
be a
one.
sales pitch for coaches. We're allowed to do that. It's my show.
All right, okay. I'm pitching you then. It is sometimes we need outside opinions. Like, it's very, very, very close to relationships. Like, there is a point in an argument in a couple where they can't solve it.
Yep.
Because they're so emotionally involved, and then having a third person in the room, like a couples therapist, to say, like, let her finish, listen to him, and then just like get this together.
Sometimes we need a
really
mediator for ourselves.
You need a mediator for the voices in our head. That's what a coach loves. I don't think that I told anybody anything that didn't already know. Like, I don't have like a sort of magic adults toolkit, like, oh, you have a startup. Did you know that you have this magic? No, it's like the things I'm telling everybody is like, they know that, but they're ignoring it.
Yeah. Yeah. Or they've buried it way in the subconscious and they'll go, oh, I never thought of that. Well, yeah, you did. You just maybe chose not to. Yeah. But I think that's so interesting in what and whether it's coaching, a mentor, what, like, there's some thoughtfulness around who comes in and helps. But, ultimately, I think a common theme here is the idea of kind of like not going this whole journey alone, especially in the entrepreneurial world. It's very easy to be a solopreneur, say a solopreneur, and stay in the silo of solopreneurship. But at some point, you're really going to hit burnout, overwhelm, or like a breaking point of some sort, whether it's good, bad, ugly, wrong definition of success, values misalignment. There's lots of reasons that can happen. I think the what Bonnie and I are trying to do is cut you off at the pass.
Yeah, I mean, I've had burnout. There are warning signs along the way, right? And it feels a little bit like the universe. I don't want to get woo-woo, but let me just say that the universe taps you on the shoulder and gives you a sign, a signal. And I push it away and ignore it. Maybe I'm getting sick, maybe I'm twisting my ankle, maybe I do something, or have like my lower back starts hurting or something like that, right? And I go like, no, I'm soldiering and grinding through this. Then you get a louder tap on your shoulder until one day the universe just slaps you left and right, and nothing sets you on the right path better than a good crisis. And it's like sort of when you think about alcoholism, right? People who are alcoholics, they don't really want to change that first of all, they don't admit they're alcoholic until they wake up in their own vomit one Tuesday morning from a Friday bender and they go like, fuck, my life is not good. And then, so the thing is that does it. But you could, in theory, start the process a lot easier, a lot earlier.
Yeah. We just do this to ourselves, though. I feel like this conversation is very common in the entrepreneurial world, which is I hit rock bottom to realize my purpose and my values. And I feel like so many of us then go out and try to proactively help people understand their purpose and their values. But there's something about the perspective shift that comes with the slap after you ignored the taps that is a big game changer.
Yeah, because we sort of try to get away with it for too long until we can't. And so, was it Winston Churchill who said, don't let a good crisis go unused? Do it, just so. But, and then burnout and depression. Most people sort of think that depression is sadness, which it is not, right? So, and I didn't know that. And so I'm teaching my founders to look for little red flags, warning signs. People you love to hang out with, you're avoiding their company. You don't go to social events. You don't want to do the things that used to be fun, and you just want to be left alone. You just want to get this thing done, and so on and so on. Those are little warning signs. And then the absence of joy or sadness, just like numbness, that is like, that's already way into depression territory. And doing something about all that early makes it so much easier to fix it. But I don't think that, it seems that the incentive is not high enough. You sort of ignore that. So, and startup founders are very much like that. Scale, like there's this point in a business when you move from startup to scale up. I don't know how relevant that is to this show, but I'm just quickly, there is this part when you finally, the success starts, your product sells, you have product market fit, you might get investment and things are going well, right? And there's this point where whatever got you here won't get you there. In fact, whatever got you here, your behavior, the way you do things, will screw up your business going forward.
Keep you from getting there. That's
It will keep
the
you
what
from
got
getting
you
there.
here won't get you there has been a recurring theme in many conversations. So I'm going to take that as a tap, tap, tap. But ultimately, I think it's even stronger to think about the fact that not only will what got you here won't get you there, it will likely hold you back at the same time.
It will fuck up your business, and you have to beep all of this out of your American show. But
Hey,
I'm in
I told you
Australia.
at the
I'm allowed to
beginning of
say
the
this.
show that I don't edit anything. Look at this guy making me do work. But
Yeah, so
this is why you and I appreciate each other, is because there's like a level of direct candor and shared perspectives on the fact that, ambition doesn't need to come at the expense of our well-being. And we have to get honest with ourselves about that.
Sorry for interrupt. There was a bit of a delay. So, and it sort of circles back, full circle to something you said earlier. Nothing great has ever been done alone.
Yes.
So you will, if you enter the room and you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yep.
So surround yourself by people that are smarter than you. And I extend this even further. Remove all toxic relationships out of your life, however hard it seems. And that includes family. Thank you very much. And you know who they are. And then surround yourself with inspirational people who lift you up. And a really good sign of an inspirational, uplifting person is they love you for who you are, and they support you in what you do, and they tell you what you need to hear, not want to hear, when you need to hear it. Surround yourself with people like that, and include yourself in that group.
Yeah. Yeah. The way you talk to yourself is most important compared to any other conversation you have.
In the room. Yeah, it's the loudest voice in the room. It's your own voice.
That's a good.
Here's a little example. So I always used to say, I'm really bad at remembering names. I'm hearing that, and I'm believing that voice because it's a very familiar voice. And I just shifted for a week to, I look forward to the time when I remember names better.
Did you start remembering names better?
I started remembering names. Like the network event, and people say, hi, I'm Mike, I'm Bob, I'm Lisa. And like in here, out there, not anymore. And I didn't change anything but my own voice to myself. And if there's one thing you can do today, that to start that process, talk to yourself the way you would talk to your best friend.
That's great advice.
As supportive and as critical as you would be with your absolute BFF.
There you go. Be your own BFF.
Be your own BFF. I want that on a t-shirt.
I think that we will submit the trademark application tomorrow, and that is the title of the episode. And if you are somebody out there who's not ready to be your own BFF, but you need a little BFF in the form of coaching, or you need some company, or you're not in the right room, or you are one of these intelligent, creative, growth-minded people and want some support, Bonnie, how do they find you so that you can help them keep their sanity?
Right now, I want to grow my YouTube channel. and it is a long and hard way to do that. So I send everybody to my YouTube channel, Bonnie Morlak. There's only one Bonnie Morlak on the planet, BonnyMorlak. So look for that channel, like, subscribe, listen to some of my rants, and we go from there.
You'll be a better human for it. And Bonnie, I'm curious. I want to challenge you to reframe that. How long is it going to take you to grow that YouTube channel statement you just made? But in the interest of time and the wind down, I'm curious what's something you're doing right now to support yourself in the way you have just suggested. So how are you staying grounded and aligned as this world keeps changing?
Every coach needs a coach. So I'm talking to a lot of meaningful people. I am shifting towards, or I have shifted for a while now towards giving back. I'm a very privileged human being. I'm born in Germany. I'm male. I'm straight. I'm middle-aged. I walk into a room I expect to win. Other people are not, and talent is global. Opportunity is not. So I help people that are insanely talented but don't have the opportunity. And I compare it a little bit like if you were a really, really good aircraft pilot, but you're born in the 14th century, that's what it must feel like to be a really talented person in Syria or in some like Bangladesh or something where you just don't have the so more and more helping people in that regard, and that's incredibly rewarding. And I'm a granddad now, which is a bizarre thought, but and spending time with my grandson. He lives far away from me, so it's not as often as I like. But I invited the whole family to Europe this past July to the Northern Hemisphere, and we were 4 generations under my mother's roof, and there was like 2% mega stress, but the rest was just beautiful and emotional. It was just really cool to see everybody together and everybody getting along and having a laugh. So more of that.
That's the North Star, right? Well, know your North Star and align everything to it. Do for yourself, do for others, do for your family. That sounds like a life well lived, my friend.
It took me a while to get here, but I think I'm on the right path finally.
I think that is if there's one commonality, it is that this doesn't happen quickly. So alignment isn't going to come overnight. However, if you know where you're going, eventually you'll get to something that looks like it.
Well, I've done a lot of different things, just sort of testing the water. I lived in the rainforest without a house for 3.5 years, which is another story for another day. Then I lived in a penthouse in Manhattan right after that, and so on and so on. So go out there and don't be afraid of failure. There's 2 things, and that's how I want to conclude. There's 2 things in life: winning or learning. And Americans are far too afraid of failing. Don't be afraid of failing.
Fail is the real 4-letter word we got to bleep out on this podcast. Yeah. I think that's going to be book number 3, by the way. No one's allowed to steal that. But, you were saying something earlier, and I was thinking about the whole, that failure thing. And I agree with you. You either win or you learn. And everything else is just water under the bridge on the journey to the North Star. That was a good little, woo-woo summary, wasn't it?
I love that.
I love spending time with somebody who just brings an honest take on what it means to go on this journey of life. Also, we will have a follow-up show on houseless rainforest living versus bus life. How's that sound?
Yeah, I'm up for it. Oh, yeah, maybe for my book launch, which should be a little bit after yours. I'm writing a book as well. So here's a plug. Unfuck Your Startup Life. With an asterisk though, because otherwise Amazon wouldn't publish it. But that's coming next.
There you go.
Which has, a lot of really good little anecdotes in there that I have a good feeling about that book.
I am excited to read it. And in the meantime, I'm eternally grateful for both your friendship and you sharing your wisdom with the folks out there in the airwaves. So thank you for being here on No More Mondays.
You have a good snowboarding or skiing session tomorrow. I hope.
Hopefully it's finally snowing here, but still early season, so it's coming.
Yeah, we have a beach day tomorrow. It's going to be
Rub it
hot.
in. Rub
Mm,
it in. For
yeah.
all of you out there, no matter what hemisphere you are in, summer, winter, spring, fall, even though that's, well, technically it is still spring and fall, but I want to remind all of you that your well-being comes first and ambition doesn't have to cost you it. It just may take getting honest with yourself and maybe bringing somebody into your echo chamber to help you through it. Thank you again, Bonnie Morlak, for being here and being part of the No More Mondays movement. It is always a pleasure. And to all of you out there listening, thank you so much for being part of this community. And remember, if you do want to grab Scary Good, Discovering Life Beyond the Sunday Scaries when it hits your shelf on January 8th, head on over to scarygoodread.com/waitlist. And I will see you next week for another episode of No More Mondays.